You and I met like 7, 8 years ago,
Yeah.
and kind of kicked it off, and
Absolutely.
it was like brothers. You know, that's what I always say. I tell
From the
everyone.
door, man. From the door. Absolutely.
You and I kicked it off, and ever since then we've had like a relationship, and I just appreciate you and kind of your guidance and how you think about things. You know, and it's different, it's unique, but it's powerful. You know, and you apply the Bible and, you know, the spiritual issues that we face.
Oh, yeah.
You know, personal issues, but you bring such a like calmness to the room. You know, no matter what we're talking about.
Yeah, you know, it's funny, man, that you mentioned that about how we met. In regards to that, I remember the very first time, it was between you and I who was going to take the reign on being the head basketball coach for a bunch of third graders. And I looked at you and I was like, nah, you got it, man. I said, you're the youth, you got it. You know, I was like, I will assist you. And you were like, you sure? He was like, no, you can take it. I was like, no, you got it. But, you know, it was just something that right there, and we doing like we're doing right now. We actually smiled at each other. We kept smiling at each other, and we just kept going and back and forth, seeing who is going to take the head basketball coach. But, you know, from that very day right there, man, I knew that you were a good guy, man. And you know, your heart is always in the right place, and you had a sense of warmth about you that, you know, that a lot of people don't understand, you know, that, you know, you bring something, you bring value, you bring honesty, you bring purity, you know, to who you are. And that's just one thing that I've always seen, that you're a man of integrity. And from that day, you know, right then and there, you could have just been like, no. And even how you dealt with the kids, you know, and dealt with the parents also, you was always right there. You were, you know, trustworthy. You know, you looked for the best value in those kids right there. And that's how we built our relationship throughout that season. You know, you dealt with the head basketball coaching position of it, and I dealt with the training aspect of it. Mm-hmm. So, you know, we partnered right there, and right now today we're still friends. You know, people look at it saying, you know, what about, no, it's about friendship with you and I. You know, John and Anthony, you know, it's all about friendship, and we just talk about whatever, everywhere we go, man. That's who we are, that's what we do. We see each other where we're at in our lives, and that's what we do.
I appreciate you. I mean, from the very beginning when you came in with that intensity, and the kids feel that too, the back and forth, but I think that speaks to your kids and your family. I mean, Anthony and Byron are just, you know, just good kids, just good authentic kids, and you know, appreciate it. I can't wait to Dallas and Anthony and definitely Byron play golf this year together.
Oh yeah. And maybe you and I can get out there also, but I don't know how good I'll do, but you know, hey, everybody be laughing.
That's all we do anyways. We'll be laughing, they can play good, we'll just sit around.
Absolutely, just laugh. You know, I might be hitting some, you know, some fair, some, you know, looking for, you know, but everything going to the left or to the right, now it depends, but it'll get there.
We'll have a good time. We'll always have a good time.
Absolutely.
So when we met, you were working in the church, but the church really wasn't, you know, it wasn't yours per se.
Right.
You know, you're generational. You know, this church has been in your family at least for a couple generations, and now passed down to you, and now you're at the reins. And I love your vision. You know, you have a vision that's unique, and I don't think it's been that way, you know, over the last 30, 40 years. But I see where you're going, and it gets us excited. And through the conversation, I want to talk about, you know, how we're helping and how we can be involved. But it's more about you and what you've done for the church and where you're taking it. And I just love to watch. I'm just sitting back. I'm praying for you, hands up. But I just want to hear more about, you know, what you're doing and what you have going on now.
Well, right now we currently we're in the process of building a daycare. Also, not only that, but we're also in the process of building the ministry. We have helped out within the community with the Cold Blue. We took that reign on this year. You know, it was something that was very valuable to the church. You know, there was no monetary donations or anything like that. But however, people flooded us. And just to see that we had a vision to say we're going to open up our church to the homeless community. And we do see our homeless community growing at a vast majority here in the York area, York City itself. And not to mention, a lot of the homeless population that come here, they're not residents of York County. You know, they populate from Lancaster, Harrisburg, Maryland. They move in because they have somewhere else that they need to go. And a lot of them, that you just got a chance to just talk to them and just had an opportunity to minister to them. Some of them came to services. And even sometimes some of the people said that were actually worked for York community that cares. They was like, you guys are too nice. But not to mention, I grew up right here where our church is at. I grew up 5 blocks away from here at the 500 block of South Queen Street. My parents had homeless people coming in on Thanksgiving dinners. We opened up our home to the homeless population for Thanksgiving growing up. We opened up to drug addicts. So me dealing with homeless population was just a norm. It was just normal to me to open up the doors to the church and say, hey, come in. We actually had a chance to feed them every night. We got clothing donations that came in that flooded in from the community. We had so many people that the moment we said we were going to do Code Blue, we had so many people that flooded our gates, man, with water, food donations, clothing, you name it. They just started flooding, and we were so grateful just to have the opportunity to get that chance to be involved and say, look, we're here now. For years, this church is almost 51 years old, and I'm 3rd generation. For years we have done things, but we have done it at such a small vision. However, now that we are moving forward and that we are saying here, look, we're here at 1000 South Queen Street. We got 15,000 square feet here. We want to open up our doors to the community. Are the doors of the church open? Yes, we want to open the doors of the church. And that's what we see right now, opening the doors to the church, getting beyond the 4 walls that are right here so that we can be involved with community engagement with the city council or whatever community events that are going on in York City.
2 years ago, you told me that kind of your vision, and you told me what you wanted to do, and seeing that Code Blue and the other things that you have that you're working on, it's not just lip service. A lot of people just talk and talk and talk and talk about something, but what you're doing is actually getting dirty. I don't know how many nights you were in here late at night,
yes.
With the homeless, feeding, helping, yes. Servicing. I came in here one night with you. There's, like you were saying, clothes laying out in the front there, donations, people just trying to help. But it takes like that first step. And people typically stumble when they get into that first step, and they get nervous, and they get pushed back. And I know you face some opposition even inside the church, in trying to do things. And you got to overcome that, which is tough. And just watching you migrate that, is a blessing to me. And I'm just happy we can be a part of it.
Yeah.
And I know this week we're going to kick off in the renovation and assisting the church with kind of getting everything ready for the daycare. Doing some cosmetic renovations and just getting things cleaned up to a point where you can provide that service to the community. I don't know if you can tell me a little bit more about that. I know you and I have talked about the moms and the babies that mothers need to get to work. They need daycare. There's not a lot of daycares. Mm-hmm. Daycares that are here are good, but they're packed. I mean, you got to be on a waiting list. I forget what you told me, under 12 months.
It's almost 8,000 kids right now in York area that is on a waiting list to get into daycare. So even if we can just provide a small service to the community, I mean, that provides jobs, it provides income, it provides something more in the area, just in our South York portion of York County, York City rather. And being that, we just want people to come in and see that, look, we are here to provide a service for you. Whether even we take it further, looking at maybe a school eventually down the road. But however, if we just have a chance, the opportunity to say, look, we're opening up the doors to the church. Here we providing services. We already have Pinkney's Vineyard of Faith Ministries, where we provide services for adolescent young ladies with babies. Giving them a chance to say, hey, look, you have somewhere to come volunteer. If you want to come, and you have the opportunity, because why? We are part of that as well. And now you can come and see where your child is being taken care of at. And also you have community service hours. You can do your community service right here, right here where your child is resting at, or where your child is being taken care of. And just to see that we can get engaged with the schools, the local schools that we have right around us. We have York High, you have Jackson Elementary, you got Hannah Penn. Also, we do work with a good school as well, where We work with Good School. Reason why we do that is because my wife at one time was a substitute teacher there. So while she was substitute teaching there, we got in contact with communities of schools. And with that, so we end up doing donations there. We fed families. We fed over like 10 families this past year for Thanksgiving. We gave about $2,500 worth of toys to the school for this year as well. We also gave clothing. We also gave hygiene products to the school as well. So we have done so much here, and we're wanting to do more. And the more we want to do is that we have to get the doors open. And once these doors open, I truly trust and believe that God will flood the gates, with what we want to do in the community. We want to feed the homeless population more, throughout the week, where they can come and get dinners in the evening times, when they need somewhere to just to rest for a moment, maybe whether it's just a coffee spot or whatever, just to give them a chance to say, you know what, I know I got somewhere I can go get a hot meal. I can go get and sit back, relax, and even turn the cafeteria area into like a little, you come and watch a little bit of news or get updates on CNN or Fox News, whatever you want to watch, just to get an update and say, here, we know the doors of the church are open. So
I love that. I love that we can be a small part in helping you, but I love to watch it because we talked about it for years.
Yes. Yeah, we have.
And now we're finally seeing the fruits of all your labor and all your work, and it's just coming to life. So we want to be a part any way we can.
And I tell you, John, and you and your family, and we do really appreciate you all for coming in and just being a part. You have always said, hey, anything you ever need, come and ask. And it's not that I ever came and asked, it was just talking about the vision. And one day you said, well, let me go see the vision. And you just came in and you was like, well, you just start feeding so many nuggets. It's like, it was just remarkable what you've given, just what you have sown into me already, not even sown on nothing else, but just sowing your word, your kindness, and everything else that you have sown into myself and the ministry. We don't have a large congregation, but we have a small congregation. And the small congregation that we do have here, they are always willing to work. They're willing to say, you know what, hey, we'll put our stuff aside for a moment. Whatever we need to get done at Bethel, let's get it done, We also have Still Metal Church they saying, look, hey, we needed chairs in our needed new chairs. They called us. We have some chairs that need to be donated. We got rid of all our benches and they sewn into us the chairs that we have here now. Dividers downstairs, they sewn in dividers. So, it's all about just being a blessing. And I realize that, we've given, my family and I, my wife, my parents, even my wife's parents, we have sown into so many people, and a lot of it is not seen. We work behind the scenes and a lot that we do. However, I'm just thankful for people honestly seeing what we do, hearing what we do, and being able to say, you know what, wow, in your due season that you have right now, you will reap if you faint not, because sometimes you feel like you want to give up. You feel like you want to throw in the towel. But it's that portion of God, that's the indwelling spirit of God, to say, you know what, you will reap if you faint not. So therefore, don't give up. Be not weary in well doing. Your due season is here, but you just got to wait on it. And a lot of people don't want to wait on nothing, man. They don't want to wait. They want it now. They want it, they want every blessing now. They want every thing now. Sometimes it's just waiting on it. And I'm sure you have so many oppositions that you got to go through with things that you're building, things that you are that's coming your way, but yet you have a process that you have to wait.
We came from nothing. We lived 343 Waldorf Drive, up behind, used to be Hakes up in Dover.
Oh, wow.
There's a small trailer park behind there. That's where I grew up till I was 12, turning 13 years old, till we moved out of there. Me and my two brothers and my sister all shared one little twin bed, in a little small single wide trailer. So going through there and growing, you always hit that opposition. You get a little bit higher, and once you get a little higher than the people that supported you, you grow a little bit, they come attacking you. You grow a little bit more, they come attacking you. And we just all want to be loved, and we want to love like God loved the church, and gave himself for it. But sometimes you do get tired, like you said. You just get, some days, I just sent you that song this morning, the Jehovah Jireh Elevation Church, the Maverick, and listen to that song over and over again, repeat sometimes, just gets my mind back to a place where you got to like reconnect and say, Lord, what am I doing? You put me here. I know you're working inside of me. I know you have something good, but you feel defeated. Some days you just feel like, what am I doing? You go back and step back a little bit, but God's empowered us and has blessed both of us with a sound mind, strong mind, to be able to keep pushing through that opposition. And the devil don't want us to win.
No.
So the devil hates us. I mean, we're doing good things, and the devil is fighting us tooth and nail and saying, these guys are going to be leaders. These guys are growing to be leaders. These guys are doing things for the community. These guys want to get back to the community. Look what they're doing. And he's just coming at us.
Yes. And that's reminds me of that scripture, many are the affliction of the righteous, but God will deliver us from them all. However, in that process, man, God did not give us the spirit of fear. And sometimes fear wants to torment us. It wants to handicap us where we're not able to move forward. It gives us, well, what about what they will think? What will they say? What would they think about you? Will you lose this connection because you're dealing with this or dealing with that person? Sometimes it's like, what? Give that to God. Allow God to deal with that, and I have a prayer every morning, man, John. I have a prayer that I pray every morning. God, close doors that need to be closed. When I ask God to close those doors, I want those doors to be closed permanently. Like he shut up the doors, like he shut up the gates in the Garden of Eden, like they could not come back in. No, shut some of those doors. And I want those doors permanently to be closed because, in this new season that we're living in, man, I want God to open up the doors that's going to be there. People that you can love purely, people that will trust you, people that will be honest, people that will work with you and deal with you and be there to support you, not to come against you, but to help you climb this ladder of success, that God wants to have in your life. And, it's not about being great, because at the end of the day, one thing I do know, one day we all have to leave here. We all have to die. But one thing I just want to do is please God in the process of living. I've done wrong. Yes, I've done wrong. I've made mistakes throughout my life. Like Michael Jordan said, I've missed that shot thousands of times. And this is why I succeed. I've made several mistakes, and this is why I succeed today, is because of the mistakes that I've made in life. And I'm grateful that people see these things. You have a group of community people that never realize what you do. But then there's a group of people, like one time this guy named Savowski Buffalo, he used to work for New York City. He says to me, we had maybe like 7, 8 years ago, we used to have a summer camp here. Before we had a bunch of youth that we had here, and then the youth grew up and now they're out working and married and all off doing their own thing. So we had a great population that just was able to, that we were able to invest in, that we were able to get this summer camp up and running. But he came, he had his nephew here, and he said, Pinkney, he said, let me tell you this, man. He said, you are doing a lot of things that a lot of people are not doing. He said, trust me, they see what you're doing. Just keep doing what you're doing. He said, you're not the one that's at every city council meeting. You're not here posting this every time. You're not doing that. He said, but you're doing such a great work. And it reminded me just to keep doing the work. Don't stop. Don't give up, man. Trust God in the process, because he did not give us the spirit of fear. See, the fear torment us. So therefore, keep doing. He gave us a spirit of love, power, and of a sound mind. So I just ask God to, increase the power within me by his Holy Spirit. Allow my love to be more action, that I'm able to love in action, not just in my words, but in my action.
How do you do that? How do you keep that sound mind when you have people chattering in the background? You can hear the little gibberish coming back, and you got to just keep your mind straightforward. You got to keep growing and keep thinking. But how do you quiet that?
Man, you know what? That's like the story of Elijah. When Elijah was running from Jezebel, and he was in torment itself, and he was in fear, and he was under the juniper tree. But however, in that process, God reminded him, don't focus on the noise, the wind, the fire, and everything that's going on around you, listen to the small, still voice. And sometimes, because all that's nothing but just jibber jabber, like you said, and it's just a bunch of talk. You know, everyone, and I've learned in life, and as I matured, everyone is always going to have something to say about you. It doesn't matter how great you're doing, how bad you're doing, or if you're not even doing anything at all. Someone is always going to have something to say about you.
That hit me hard. Looking at the sports facility, most people are figuring out now, you know, and seeing, we put some publications out there and some press releases about the sports facility. Something that, you know, dire need in this area. In York County, we really don't have any kind of like center area where everybody can come to, you know, to compete, to exercise, to get better. And just as a community, I mean, just use it as just a venue. But I thought, and this is me being naive, that everybody was going to love it. You know, you put it out there and everybody's going to be loved. And very, very shortly after the first couple leaks of the press release out there, people that for years I thought supported us, supported me, talked positively about me, and they came out and, you know, angry, you know, and you're thinking this is for the community. I mean, there's a lot of different things we could be using our time for, but it's something that I really love, and sports is close to me, and, you know, that's how we met. Through sports. And it's something that I really, really am passionate about, and passionate about the community and the giving back aspect, and getting kids that can't afford to be able to get to a sports facility, can't afford to be able to play on an AAU team or an intramural team, getting them transportation there, getting them there at a low or no cost, and be able to get out there and exercise, kind of leaving those thoughts behind. If they come from a bad setting, they come from a good setting or a stressful area, how can you overcome those thoughts of negativity to reach that? You know, I always call it like the promised land. Like, in my mind, I have this vision, and it's like of me running down through the courts and having all of these young kids follow me, and having all of these young kids be able to be on teams and groups and training, and the smile on their faces and the air breathing through their nostrils and hearing the sneakers on the courts. All of that just kind of drives me when I'm sitting there quietly thinking about the negativity and the people that have said, you know, so many negative things, you know, even recently. I just keep focusing on the goal. You know, he's on the end.
Yeah, and you got to always think about that scripture. He that hath begun a good work in you shall perform it unto the day of Jesus Christ. So therefore, I remember even when you were looking at that, talking about that sports facility on Susquehanna Trail, and that land right there, you remember that? It was several years ago, you know? And you started talking about your vision then, you know, back then. And I was like, oh yeah, that'd be dope, man. I was like, yeah, you know, I said, you iron everything out. You was like, I don't know which way I may go with it. But now that it is a need. I grew up going to the different recreation centers here in New York City area. And back then, that gave us an outlet. That gave the kids something to look forward to every night. I mean, we swam. That's how I learned how to swim. You know, when I went to the Navy, I was in the Navy, and I was one. You know, in our culture, a lot of our culture don't know how to swim. But when they looked at me, they was like, "Hold on," and it was like, "You can swim?" I was like, "Yes, I can swim," because I learned to swim in my community. I was taught by an instructor in my community how to swim. So, you know, growing up doing those little small things like that, and I learned how to play basketball in my community. So, you know, when I grew up, there was an outlet for us. And they gave us different classes as well, male responsibility classes. It kept us also off the street. Grew up in the South Side here in New York. And doing that, it gave us something to look forward to every night. 5 days a week, man, we were sitting playing basketball, swim, then come back and play basketball again, swim, play basketball again. But now you're looking at growing it at a bigger environment. This is giving the whole, not just York City, but York County in a whole, something to look forward to, you know, something to hold on to. I mean, we cannot drive over to Spooky Nook every day to go play ball, you know, but right here in our own community, we need something for these young people to have something to look forward to. You know, you never know. You never know if you got the next Kevin Durant.
That's right.
You never know if you got the next, I think you have some football facility as well that's going to be in there. You never know if you got the next.
Michael Parsons.
Michael Parsons, that's here in York County. I mean, heck, they got a young kid right now at York High that's doing really well. It is 9th grade, man, that this kid is deadlifting major weight, and he's doing really well. You never know who you have unless you open up the centers, you know? I mean, we look at our kids that's performing right now in sports, whether it's basketball, whether it's football, you know, there's a lot of their parents can afford to send them to training camps or send them to strength coaches and everything else. However, there's that kid that cannot get to the strength coach that's living inside York City. He cannot, she cannot. But guess what? An opportunity, if an opportunity is there, if a door is open, just like we say here in the church, you give us an opportunity, open the doors to the church, open the doors to the sports facility, we never know what can happen, man.
So true. That's where my heart is in it. And I just see that. I see it so much, and it gets me so excited, because even when I was, you know, in the trailer park with my family, sitting at the table with mom and dad, and I was very young, you know, seeing them argue, fight over a small bill, because we didn't have any money. We were just poor. In my mind, I was always looking for the future, always excited for the future, always excited for the future. And that's how I've always been, and I think that's what, you know, keeping me cheerful and my countenance happy and, you know, a positive mentality was just always looking forward to that future. And seeing now what's on the horizon for York County and the surrounding areas. I mean, even Lancaster, Harrisburg, Mechanicsville, Camp Hill, Baltimore, you know, will all be coming to the facility here. It's something that is, it's legacy leaving. You know, it's something that's going to change this for the next generation, next generation. And, you know, God put that in my heart from a young age. T.D. Jakes, who I listen to a lot, and I think you do too. Yeah. He just, I was listening to him the other day, and he said, God didn't give him the vision. So when he's speaking negatively to me about something he can't see because God didn't put it in his heart, it hit me deep, because God put so many things in my heart and just a peace about what we're doing and where we're going. And one of my biggest issues was because of how we came from nothing. I didn't think I could do it. You know, as confident as I was as a kid, you know, my brothers, the only time I ever got in a fight, was there was a kid that kept talking about my brothers at a park, and they kept talking about the shoes that we were wearing, and we could never afford to have nice shoes. We had the Shaq shoes from Walmart, you know, and it was, and the Champions, and we never, you know, or we got used shoes, you know. We would jump up and down. My dad would bring home clothes, pass down clothes from his boss or his boss's kids, and we would be jumping up and down. That's the first Jordans I ever got, the Retro 5s.
Oh, wow.
Were pass downs. I wore those things till my foot was going out the front of them, because I was so proud to wear them. Right. And they were dirty when I got them, but I washed them up as good as I could. But through that process, and back then as we grew, you know, God put something in me that was always fighting for the underdog. And when you have my brothers who were getting made fun of at a park by this kid who was just talking down to him, and I got angry, and I lashed out on him, and I threw him down on the ground, and I was just ready to go start punching him, and then I backed down, and I was just like, you know, it's not worth it. I'm just gonna walk away from this. But I was just so tired of getting made fun of, you know, growing up. You don't have this, you don't have that. And that little chip and that grit, you know, I think it's helped carry me through life. But we love the work. It's kind of been in our blood. So like I'm the opposite. If I sit around, everybody's like, slow down. If I slow down, I get way more anxiety than if I'm moving. If I'm moving, I keep moving. I think everything's good.
Steady pace. Yeah.
But when I slow down, you know, then I'm just like, okay, what's next?
Bored, man. Yep. That's that devil's playground, man. You get bored and you're idle and everything else, man. But they said, you know, they always made that statement: if you build it, they will come. You know, if you build it, they will come. Regardless of all the opposition, or regardless of the people that don't want it there, they will come. You know, and that's one thing. You look at the baseball stadium that was built. We moved here in 2006. So I think the baseball stadium was around 2006 or so.
Yep.
And reason why we had to move to this church, because we were in a part of the baseball stadium. Our church was down there on Duke and Arch Street. So, but you look at the baseball stadium, they had so many oppositions that's there. You know, it went through from Sovereign Bank at the time to People's Bank to now it's WellSpan. So, you know, you look at the different transitions that it went through, but still yet they are still there. And one thing, people will show up. You know, I learned that people will show up if you're investing into people. And I see the people that the ownerships, I don't know exactly who own the baseball stadium now, but however, people are constantly there. They're always having job fairs. They're always doing something with WellSpan. They're doing events there. They're always doing something there. So people will show up and they will support, man. And I tell you, man, it's needed in our community. I'm telling you, you don't know how that next person, that young person, that person that may be in 4th or 5th grade right now, just need that chance. They only need, like the Bible says, faith the size of a mustard seed. They just need that small little bit of faith to say, you know what, I can become something. Somebody's looking at me, and somebody, you don't even have to say nothing to that person. Just give them a chance. And if you just give them the window of opportunity, just, I'm sure, just like you had, you said, I work hard, and you had a window of opportunity to get to where you're at today, and look what happened. Look at the blessings that came upon it because you had a window of opportunity.
100%.
And you took it and you ran with it. You didn't look back. You know, some people sit and they worry about what everybody else is thinking about them. You know, and that's sometime, you know, that's when we got to listen to that small, still voice, knowing that I will be with you. You know, through the fire, when God will be with you, through the fire, through the pain, through the hurt, through the frustration, through it all, I will be with you. He will never leave us nor forsake us. And that's something that I always hold on to myself also, because I'm telling you, when I took this reign here at Bethel, man, we faced an opposition like crazy. First, it came through COVID, through the pandemic, and everything just shuts down. You know, my grandfather, he had several strokes. My grandmother was in the hospital. My mother was in the hospital. My niece was at the verge of losing her life. It was at like such a tragic event of how I came into the pastor. It was like, hold on, how am I pastoring and everybody around me, the ones that I need right now, are on the verge of losing their life? My mother's in the hospital. Her kidneys was shutting down. Like literally, like the doctors told her, if you do not come to the hospital right now, we don't know, you know. And then my grandmother, she had a major surgery. Then my grandfather, he had strokes, and it was just like everyone was shutting down around us. And my wife and I, we had to hold on to each other and look at each other and say, look, we got to get through this. This is a storm that we have to get through right now. See, a lot of people don't know that, where I could not leave the church for 4 years straight. I did not leave the pulpit. I had to leave during that time process, but I had to go and bury my father's dad down in Georgia, and also his sister. I left the pulpit twice within a 4-year period.
That's crazy.
Because I had to put back what God has given. And it was like the church was going through such a transition. Then you had people that was giving opposition in the process of the transition. And then in that process is like, no, can't focus on the opposition. You know, others were focusing on the opposition. They would bring it to me. I don't want to hear it. I'm moving forward. So if you want to chop on this glory train, man, look, God got something for us. I don't know what's the next 5 years from now, but guess what? One thing I do know, he said, yeah, I didn't bring you this far to leave you now. So therefore, he has something more in store for this process. And one thing I've learned is that to open up your doors. You know, when you go somewhere, you travel to Atlanta, to Charlotte, North Carolina, or something like that, one thing you see, the difference is the diversity. And it's very diversified. And that's one thing we are breaking these walls down here at our church, is the diversity, man. We want to see everyone. I don't care whether it's economical background, social background, whatever political party you agree with, it doesn't matter. I want to see everyone sitting, serving, and worshiping, because it's only one Lord, man. One faith and one baptism. And that's where a lot of people fail to realize. And this is what handicaps the church, is that we put all our, well, I'm a Baptist, or I'm a Methodist, or I'm this, I'm that. I don't care who you are. But one thing I do know is that God is God. And besides him, there is no other God. And in that great day, it's only going to be, you know, it's not going to be male nor female, Jew nor Greek, bond nor free. all are going to become one in him. So it doesn't matter who we are now. What is going to matter then is what we become in him. Yeah. Is that we're going to have that chance to say, you know what, we want to celebrate in the kingdom together, you know, because we're going to be brothers. We're already brothers. So, and brothers and sisters in the Lord. So why can't we celebrate now together?
We talk about that all the time, that a lot of people are going to be we're going to be surprised when they get to heaven.
Yes.
It ain't going to be a white guy with a big beard sitting there. And you and I talk about this all the time. It's
yes.
like, they're going to be surprised. And we love.
Yes.
Like, we have a love for each other.
Yes.
Color don't mean a thing.
No, it doesn't, man.
And we love each other.
Yeah.
And God died for every one of us.
He did.
God died on that cross. He didn't see one difference.
No.
He saw sinners, and he saw people that needed him.
Yes.
And he died. And he died for all of us. And it's something that we get lost in society, in culture, in that God died for every one of us.
He did.
None of us are greater than him. There is none righteous, no, not one.
No. And that's why Paul says all have sinned and fell short of the glory of God. So, and if we take that and look at that little aspect right there, you know, and the scriptures do teach that the wages of sin is death. So therefore, we all have sinned and we all fell short of his glory. So why can't we worship and come together? You know, when you look at the Asbury University right now, that major revival that they had going on, I don't know if it's still going on yet or not, but one thing I've seen in there is that everybody was on one accord. Even you've seen the presence of God falling in there because you've seen a cloud in that place. And it was like, you're in the glory of God, man. And when you come together, he said in his word, if 2 or 3 are gathered together, touching and agreeing, that he will be in the midst, man. He will be in our presence. And the only thing he wants is people to come together because, like you said, he died on the cross for mankind, not for just this race or that race. He died for everyone. He died for the sinner, right. You know, for a sinner, a wretch undone. That's why Paul said, "Oh, wretched man that I am, who's going to deliver me from the body of this death?" It takes the blood of Jesus Christ to be delivered from this that we live in, because we know that in this flesh dwelleth no good thing. So we got to come to a point in our lives and say, you know what, Lord, forgive me for my sins. Forgive me for my actions. Forgive me for my words. Sometimes we don't even know of what we have done. And that's why we got to be like the Apostle Paul and say we got to die daily, man.
So true. So true. And you just keep it real all the time. You know, I love it. You can relay stuff. I always stumble over my words when I listen to you and the way that you eloquently just talk about things freely and it comes off your tongue. Yeah. God's put something in you. And that's why I want you to talk. I don't even want to talk. I just like listening to you. I'm just here to cheer you on. You'll hear me amen from the back.
Man, I tell you, man, we really, we're just completely grateful, man. I tell you, my wife and I, we have been married going on 22 years this year. And, you know, we have faced a lot of obstacles, man, in our marriage. We have faced a lot of obstacles, work, being that we work together as well. Now in the ministry, working. You know, you face so many obstacles, but however, one thing I realized, man, is that through it all, you know, we used to sing this old song, through it all, we learned to trust in Jesus, we learned to trust in God. You know, I've faced so many mountains, you know, I've been through so many valleys, but I know one thing, that God will deliver me from them all. So if I keep trusting, keep believing, man, and keep holding on to the promises of God, and that is his word. You know, the Bible says that the word is nigh thee, it's even in your heart. So if I could keep believing in his word, that word that he placed on the inside of me, that one day his word would manifest and his word would come, like he became the word, the living word, and it began to dwell among us. So we want to be just like him and become that living word also. Going out, showing love, like you have expressed about love, and showing that love continually, man. And you got to be consistent. One thing I learned about love is it's consistent. You know, even Christ gives us every day that we wake up, we see the consistency. We have new mercies. Another day to get it right. Another day to ask for forgiveness. Another day to get something right with whomever. You know, another day to just, you know, say, Lord, I surrender. Here I am. You know, God, help me. in the process of my life. But, as I continue to grow in that, man, and even grow in my ministry, what God has called me to do, I'm beginning to see and look and judge people differently, man. Because at one point in time, there was such a time I was harsh with my judging. Like I would judge hard. But then I started looking at it. God had to remind me through my mistakes, through my trials, through my tribulations. Let me remind you, Galatians 6:1 talks about it all the time, man, how, you gotta, if you find yourself in a fault, if you find your brother, your sister in a fault, you got to go and restore that one in the spirit of meekness, considering thy own self. And guess what? I had to consider myself so many times. My grandfather used to always say, if you point a finger, you got that thumb pointing right back at you. So I got to consider myself, man.
What do you think holds our area back from growing? You talk about Atlanta, Georgia specifically, but Atlanta. I was just in Charlotte, North Carolina, down in Orlando, Florida. It seems like we're always like 12 to 15 years behind. Bob Kinsley used to always tell me and my brother that we're like 12 to 20 years behind Lancaster, and it feels like we're, as like a culture and a society here in York, we're always behind. We're from diversity, from just inclusiveness, thoughts. Like we're just not a progressive area when it comes to like new thoughts, a new way of thinking. And we really, I think the sports facility, we push back. We're scared of change internally. So how we deal with that or we cope with that is we're negative. It comes out negative. So I don't know why you would do that. Or what are you thinking? Why would you do something like this?
Wow, that's, I would hate to say the crab and barrel effect. However, we do know that it exists. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of our people never had a chance to really travel and get a chance to explore more than just York County. Yeah, and get a different perspective on life. I went in the military in 1999. And the very first time I got down, first in Great Lakes, Illinois, that's where I went to boot camp at. And then I had a chance to travel and then stayed in the area for about 6 months, where I was going back and forth into Chicago. When I seen how big Chicago was, and when you walk downtown, you seen everyone walking. You seen all types of businessmen and walking downtown, and you seen it all. And then I just started, my mind started looking. I'm like, wow. Then I moved I got stationed down in Norfolk, Virginia. And the very first time I went down there, I go into a restaurant, and this is no lie, John. I go in there and I see black waitresses, black managers, and I but then when I look in the restaurant, I see whites sitting in there, normal. There was no issues. There was nobody looking, nobody staring. And I'm like, hold on, this is different to me. It was like a culture shock because I was not used to that, And being I'm born and raised here in York County, York City, and York County as well, I walked in, I said, wow, this is different. This is how life's supposed to be.
100%.
This is how life's supposed 100%. To be. Like, it doesn't matter. But yet you seeing everybody. Then you start seeing the difference. And you go to another restaurant, you might see more whites, but yet you see the blacks in there. You've seen it all, and it's like, wow. But everybody was together. There was nobody staring. There was nobody looking. There was nobody judging at the moment because it was just a different perspective. Then you go to the bigger cities, they see things differently. It doesn't matter who you are. Just come in, let's grow together. Let's build together. I was listening to this guy on his podcast, how they were saying how a lot of people were leaving like the Louisiana area. There's this one part down in Louisiana. They said, well, everybody want to migrate to Atlanta, Georgia. Everybody that's from Atlanta, that's born and raised there, they have helped build their city to be where it is today. That's why it's so popular. That's why it's thriving. That's why it's growing. That's why a lot of people from here in the York area left here and moved down there as well, because it's thriving. Instead of us saying, how can we take the time to build our city? But we got to build it together, and we got to come together. We got to unify ourselves together. You know, in order for us to build our city, to build our county, if we have the same opportunity here that then everyone has. If we learn to work together, man, this can be a great city. And we can see our poverty level that's here. Get rid of that poverty level, because if we can sow back into our own city instead of sowing into everything else and everywhere else, man, because I'm sure the sports facility is going to bring jobs.
Tons of jobs.
It's going to bring jobs. It's going to bring people to saying, you know what, wow, you know, I never thought I could work in the sports industry, but guess what? I can work in the sports industry. Or I never thought I could be a chef somewhere. Now I could be a chef in a restaurant, you know, or you know, I can work as a greeter or whatever,
Hostess,
you know,
anything.
Has security. It's going to bring security jobs, I'm sure.
That's right.
So you got so many different things that's going to be opportunity that's going to be there. And doors is open. The floodgates is here. But we got to learn to come together and say, you know what? Let's get rid of our mentality and say, hey, yes, let me scratch your back, you scratch my back. You know, let me help you, help me build, I help you build, you know. And that's the thing, you know, I've learned this, and this is why Pinkney's Vineyard, and I hate to say this, reason why we kind of stayed to ourselves since we were open since 2005 is because of that effect. Because we hated to see the fact that we were afraid to get the backlash. So we kind of stayed in our own little corner and just kept working, dealing with the different counties that we deal with. You know, get your funding. And sometimes, you know how that comes. That's very scarce. But it's like, you know, if we stay in our own corner, that keeps people's mouths off of us. But now it's like, no, we got to think different than that. Nah, we can't be afraid no more. And putting ourselves out there and saying, you know, we've been in existence for 16 plus years, man. And now it's time to say, you know what, now where are we going to the next level? We have helped thousands, hundreds of young ladies, whether it's from York County, Dauphin County, Lancaster County, Philadelphia, Mifflin, Montgomery, Delaware, all over, Northampton County now, Luzerne, Bucks County, Perry County. You know, we have helped young ladies from all over the state of Pennsylvania. But a lot of people don't even know that, man. A lot of people don't even know that we even exist because of that spirit of fear, because we were afraid to say, you know what, let's put ourselves out there. No, we don't want to do that because we don't want the backlash because of our name.
You always know you have my support.
Yes.
I love you like a brother. We got to do this again.
Yes, sir.
Sit down
Yes, sir.
and talk more.
Yes, sir.
But you know I love you.
Love you too,
And
man.
I want to keep working together. We're going to
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Yes, sir.